Well, let's get more on this because with me in the studio is Michael Daventry, a freelance journalist based in London. Thank you for being with us. You've been listening to what President Erdoğan has had to say. Just give us a flavour.
Well, it's one of the most religious, pious speeches of his career, without a doubt. I mean, President Erdoğan is a very faithful man. He's built his politics around religion as well. But even from him, in a country like Turkey, which has got such strong secularist foundations, for him to be talking with such religious undertones was definitely one of the most remarkable parts of this speech.
Quite an aggressive speech as well. He said that he wanted to chop the heads off of traitors. What do you make of that?
Well, there's been a talk in Turkey for the last year and a half of reintroducing the death penalty. It was abolished about 17, 18 years ago now as part of Turkey's attempts to join the European Union. That is now beginning to slowly backtrack, and President Erdoğan's supporters repeatedly call during his rallies for the death penalty. And he's playing a very coy game. Occasionally he will sort of say, yes, I think it's about time we reintroduced it and all traitors to the nation should be executed. But then he will also be slightly withdrawn because he knows that if it is reintroduced, that will be the end of Turkey's EU membership bid.
Tens of thousands, of course, attending this rally in Istanbul, another one happening in Ankara. How do you think the country is reflecting on this anniversary?
Well, it's worth pointing out, actually, that this was a traumatic night. It was for me as well. I'm a Turkish citizen. I grew up in Ankara, and I can't quite find the words to describe, still, a year on, to see the streets that I grew up on, the streets I played football in, to see tanks driving down the middle of those roads and then deliberately over cars. It was a deliberate act of destruction and terror. It was traumatic in so many ways. So Turkey is entitled today, I think, a year on, to express a little bit of anger. The problem with that is that it isn't the picture of unity that the president would like everyone else to think. He commands the support of precisely 50% of the country. There was a referendum about 3 months ago. The result of that referendum was a little bit in doubt, but the point of it was that it exposed a country that is definitely divided. But President Erdoğan commands only half of that support.
Who are his supporters?
They are a new middle class that was created over the last 15 to 20 years. These are people whose lives have been drastically improved by President Erdoğan. They go to better schools, they have jobs, they have much better healthcare, things like pensions and mortgages. Lots of things that we're used to in the West were brought to a vast section of conservative, right-wing Anatolian people. And so they reward President Erdoğan with his support. But because he has a very rigid way of thinking, he isn't always the most tolerant person when it comes to different opinions, and that has become more evident in the last few years when his a very successful alliance of liberals and left-wingers and intellectuals that he built when he first came to power, when that alliance began to disintegrate.
Michael Daventry, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.